Coming up today, Korea's science and culture-related ministries are briefing President Park Geun-hye about their plans for this year. The president is likely to reiterate her call for structural reforms aimed at revitalizing the economy. Just a day after lifting nuclear sanctions against Iran, the United States imposes new sanctions on companies connected to Tehran's ballistic missile program. The removal of international sanctions on Iran is expected to help Korean exporters. Plus, a bitterly cold start to the week for Korea's central region. We can expect heavy snow in some regions and temperatures dipping well below minus 10 degrees Celsius tonight. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 18th of January. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We're going to start today at Korea's top office, where President Park Geun-hye says she will join a public movement calling on lawmakers to promptly pass pending economy-related bills. In a keynote speech ahead of a second policy briefing meeting for this year, President Park said warned that Korea could face another financial meltdown like the Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s if labor reform and other bills aimed at improving the livelihoods of the public are not passed. Business organizations have started a campaign to gather 10 million signatures from the public for a petition to urge lawmakers to pass pending bills to revitalize the economy. Korea's science and culture ministries are focusing their plans for this year on realizing President Park's vision for the creative economy and cultural convergence. The ministries laid out their plans in a briefing for the president this morning. It's the second of 5 sessions President Park will have with government bodies this month. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
6 government offices, including the Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning, outlined their policies for the year in a briefing to President Park Geun-hye on Monday. Their focus will be on boosting the government's growth initiatives through its vision for achieving the creative economy and cultural convergence. The ministries pledged to work toward creating a mutually beneficial corporate environment among the country's big conglomerates, startups, and small and medium-sized companies by utilizing a network of 17 creative economy centers dedicated to spearheading regional innovation and entrepreneurship.
We plan to make employment zones in the Centers for Creative Economy and Innovation by June and help build infrastructure for digital cultural content through creative economy valleys in Seoul's metropolitan districts of Sangam and Pangyo, which are expected to become Asia's largest startup and cultural hubs.
The ministries also hope to inject a combined $65 billion into nurturing core growth industries such as fintech, short for financial technology. The Centers for Creative Economy and Innovation were built across the country to offer a wide range of practical support to IT startups to increase their investments, expand their client base, and provide opportunities for overseas expansion. Aside from that, the Culture and Tourism Ministry plans to dispatch 1,000 artists to 300 companies to help nourish innovative thinking and create cultural platforms. It also hopes to lift the number of inbound tourists to 20 million by creating leisure and entertainment complexes equipped with shopping and casino facilities. The Health Ministry says it'll work toward easing regulations in the biohealth sector and support the development of telemedicine systems in rural areas. The Korea Communications Commission says it will ease regulations to allow ground wave channels to broadcast in ultra-high definition, in addition to increasing the number of startups using location-based services. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, the parliamentary speaker of Korea's National Assembly will make yet another attempt to mediate between the two rival parties to smooth the passage of some contentious bills. Officials say Jung Wi-hwa plans to meet with ruling party floor leader Won Yu-chul and his opposition party counterpart Lee Jung-gol together later this afternoon. The two party chiefs are meeting today to try and talk through their differences on the pending bills and the shape of the as yet undecided electoral map. Now, the redrawing of that map, which became invalid late last month after a constitutional court ruling, is an urgent issue considering a general election is set for mid-April. Speaker Jung has not been able to exercise his authority to put the issue to an assembly vote as a committee under the National Election Commission failed to produce a suitable alternative. Now, the head of Korea's ruling party has stressed the need to implement reforms in the labour, education, public and financial sectors in order to breathe new life into the economy. In a New Year's press conference on Monday, Sunni Party chairman Kim Moo-sung said the government could face difficulties reviving the economy without overhauling the labour and public sectors. High youth unemployment has emerged as a major social issue here in Korea, prompting calls for more active measures to address the issue. Kim also criticised the main opposition Minju Party of Korea for using the related bills as political bargaining chips. He also stressed that South Korea's economy was at a critical juncture as the recent nuclear test by Pyongyang posed a great threat to regional security and peace. Asian stock markets opened lower again on this Monday as global oil prices extended their decline after international sanctions on Iran were lifted. Korea's benchmark Kospi opened 1.22% down from Friday's close at 1,856, while Japan's Nikkei opened almost 2% lower. As of 11:50 a.m. Korea time, so about 15 minutes ago, the Kospi was down 0.48% at 1,870. Chinese shares also opened down 1.8% from Friday's close. Now, due to worries of oversupply and weakening demand, Brent oil traded below $28 a barrel. With restrictions lifted, Iran is gearing up to expand output and exports by 500,000 barrels a day. The US and other major powers lifted international sanctions on Iran over the weekend after the UN's Atomic Energy Agency said the Iranian government had stuck to its side of a landmark nuclear deal between Tehran and major world powers. Now, South Korea and Iran have enjoyed strong political and economic ties for decades. But as with most countries around the world, Seoul's two-way trade with Tehran suffered due to the international community's rigid sanctions on Iran for its nuclear program. But now that those sanctions have been lifted, what does it mean for South Korea? To help us answer that question, we are joined on the line by Lee Do-won, Professor of Economics at Yonsei University in Seoul. Professor Lee, thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So South Korea will be hoping for a real trade boost following the removal of sanctions on Iran, particularly as Seoul's exports fell each and every month last year. How much of a boost, a bounce, do you think this is going to give the local economy?
Well, generally speaking, I think it's a very good news to the Korean economy. As you know, as economic sanctions on Iran is lifted, the Iranian government can reclaim the ownership of its foreign assets, which is actually very huge, and they will definitely use this money to redevelop the Iranian economy. And in this process, Korean companies and Korean industries will be one of the biggest beneficiaries in the world.
Yes, very true. And Iran used to be South Korea's second biggest trading partner in the Middle East, so there's absolutely no denying how important it is to the Korean economy. Now, Korea's biggest construction firms, as well as the nation's automakers, are going to be extremely eager to hunt for new business opportunities in Iran now. In your opinion, which sectors here in Korea will benefit the most from this removal of sanctions?
Well, as you just mentioned, construction sector, automobile industry, and electronics industry will be definitely one of the biggest beneficiaries in Korea. And as you know, we have maintained relatively good relationship with Iran, even under the economic sanctions. But that is going to give us a more positive boost to the Korean economy. But I have one concern about the oil industry. So as Iran will resume the production of oil, the global oil price will continue to fall, and I think that is going to hurt the oil refinery industry of Korea, which is actually one of the biggest export industry in Korea. But in general, definitely there will be more gains than the cost to the Korean economy.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Yi, for your insights. That was Professor Lee Ju-won of Yonsei University in Seoul with his thoughts on South Korea's rekindling of trade ties with Iran. Now, on a related note, the US government has imposed fresh sanctions on Iranian entities and individuals for violating UN resolutions against ballistic missile tests. And this move comes a day after the White House did lift those broader sanctions against Iran for its nuclear program. Our Son Jung-in has the details.
The U.S. Treasury Department says it has sanctioned 11 Iranian companies and individuals for their alleged role in Iran's ballistic missile test conducted in October of last year. The Treasury said it will continue to punish Tehran if it steps out of the nuclear agreement reached between the two and 5 other world powers last summer. The blacklist included a UAE-based company and its founder for allegedly aiding in developing Iran's missile program. Also, among 5 Iranian officials who were targeted, 3 are suspected to have worked with North Korea on its missile development. The move comes less than 24 hours after a prisoner swap between the two countries that freed 5 American prisoners. U.S. officials reportedly sat on the announcement for several weeks until after the exchange was completed so as not to endanger the prisoners' release. U.S. President Barack Obama vowed to continue monitoring Iran's nuclear program to ensure Tehran does not cheat.
We still have sanctions on Iran for its violations of human rights, for its support of terrorism, and for its ballistic missile program, and we will continue to enforce these sanctions vigorously.
Iran has strongly opposed to Washington's move to impose additional sanctions for its ballistic missile program, but most watchers believe the latest sanctions will not be a big obstacle for the two sides to improve their relations. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, the South Korean military is planning to expedite development of its so-called kill chain system to defend against North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Officials decided to speed up the process following Pyongyang's 4th nuclear test earlier this month. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
In an interview with Korea's Yonhap news agency on Monday, the head of the Defense Acquisition Program Administration, Chang Myung-jin, announced plans to enhance not only the kill chain weapons system, but also the overall structure, including training of personnel. The kill chain and Korea air and missile defense are the South Korean military's main tools for countering North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. The kill chain is a system to carry out a preemptive strike on North Korea's nuclear and missile facilities upon imminent threat and is scheduled to be installed by 2023. Chang also added that it will put more effort in developing Patriot missiles and long-range surface-to-air missiles to better counter North Korea. The South Korean military is reviewing whether to push for early implementation of the system after Pyongyang conducted its 4th nuclear test. Chang also added that the DAPA sent a detailed request for the first time last week to the U.S. for all the sub-technology transfers needed to develop Korea's indigenous fighter jet project. Korea and the U.S. previously agreed on the transfer of 21 key technologies last December. Chang says discussions on technology transfers could take up to 3 years, but emphasized that other options will be explored to continue the project should talks with Washington break down. The KFX project aims to develop 120 homegrown fighter jets by 2026 to replace its aging fleet of F-4s and F-5s. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, the controversy surrounding a Taiwanese member of a K-pop girl group continues to rumble on. The teenage pop star waved a Taiwanese flag on a Korean TV show and has sparked a cross-strait political row between Taipei and Beijing. Park Ji-won reports.
It all started with a waving of Taiwanese flag on a Korean entertainment program after 16-year-old K-pop group member Suwoo, born and raised in Taiwan, introduced her homeland to the Korean viewers. It was innocuous enough to Koreans, but not to Chinese viewers. The Taiwanese flag is considered a symbol of Taiwan's pro-independence movement, and the teenage pop star released a video apology last Friday, saying she feels deep remorse for her actions and stressed there's only one China. The K-pop star's agency JYP also released an apology statement the same day, saying the agency was not prudent enough with regard to the sensitivity of the matter. Taiwanese citizens expressed anger over the teenage singer's apology on the day of its presidential election, a day after the video was uploaded. It became a main issue during the election over the weekend, and analysts said the flag row may have widened the main opposition's victory margin by some 1%. The main opposition party is skeptical about closer ties with Beijing, gaining a majority in the parliament for the first time.
We need to make sure the world realizes there is nothing wrong with waving the Taiwanese flag. It's not something that should be condemned.
With the flag row deepening, Taiwanese citizens are organizing a massive protest on Sunday, and about 10,000 people have expressed willingness to join the movement. Amid the controversy, the official website of JYP, Taiwanese Teens Korean agency, was hacked over the weekend. The website remains down, and the agency says at the moment it does not know the source of the cyber attack. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, if you're watching us in Korea, particularly in the central region, you're going to have to brace yourselves for the coldest weather of the winter season so far. Most of the country started the day well below freezing, with Seoul and its surrounding areas seeing some pretty heavy snow, in fact. A heavy snow advisory has been issued for Jeollado province, and a heavy snow alert is in place for mountainous areas on Jeju Island. The nation's weather agency says sub-freezing temperatures will stay with us throughout the whole week, so beware of slippery roads or sidewalks, and wrap up nice and warm. The local health authorities say 6 people have died from illnesses caused by the cold this winter season. Well, that's all we have for now on this Monday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for tuning in to our newscasts, and we'll be back throughout the day with more news updates. Until then, goodbye.